Next speaker is my partner, but also my partner in research, amongst other things. And we've been traveling and exploring and looking at these different aspects of these sites. And she's become an expert in the symbolism of much of the ancient world, applying her knowledge to Egypt, to British sites, to Göbekli Tepe and Karahan Tepe. And she's found many connections which other people just don't seem to see. And so I persuaded her to come and do her lecture that she did on one of our tours to Egypt about Seshat, which is like the early female surveyor, traditionally Thoth's consort in ancient Egypt. But the research that's come out of this has been quite spectacular. So please give a warm Megalithomania welcome to JJ Ainsworth.
So thank you guys for coming. We really appreciate it. Your support for Megalithomania means a lot to us. So as Hugh said, I'm a researcher. For many of you that don't know me, you can just go online and look up JJ Ainsworth or Megalithic Maiden and you'll find some stuff. Okay, so today I'm going to speak a bit about Egypt and some of its powerful deities, in particular about the ancient goddess Seshat. She has many titles, but my favorite description of her is Mistress of the House of Architects, because for sure she is the one that takes measure. She is such an intriguing character. Seshat was also known as the Mistress of the House of Books, because she looked after the library of the gods and was also the patroness of all earthly libraries. The goddess of wisdom, writing, astronomy, and also architecture, astrology, and surveying and mathematics. She was also patroness of all forms of writing, including accounting and census taking. Most people don't realize that it was actually Seshat who invented writing, but it was her consort, Thoth, that taught the people how to write. Seshat is the only female character who was actually depicted in the act of writing, although a number of other women were only shown holding the scribe's palette. They were never shown writing. As mistress of the House of Architects, she would have access to the tools required of such a title, and I'll touch on a few of these implements during this talk. Some of these surveying tools shown here on the slide are a marquette and bay, cubit rods, as well as a groma, and I'd like to focus on these instruments for a few moments. The earliest attested standard measure is the ancient Egyptian royal cubit. The cubit is an ancient unit of length based on the distance from the elbow to the tip of the middle finger. So these types of rods were used for the measurement of length. Luckily, some of the tools have survived, and two are known from the tomb of Maya, the treasurer of the 18th dynasty pharaoh Tutankhamun in Saqqara. And those are those two particular rods. So this is a marquette, and it's a surveying and timekeeping instrument. It's often referred to as the instrument of knowing and as a star clock. The marquette was used alongside a sighting tool, which is known as a bay. Bays were often created from specifically incised palm ribs with a cut V shape on one end. When utilized as a clock, it would have been used to determine the hours by the sun during the daytime and by observing the passage of selected stars across the north-south meridian during the night. These tools were an impressive step up from using a simple sundial, as sundials were rendered useless at nighttime. Using the marquette as a surveying implement allowed the ancients to accurately establish straight lines in construction projects such as pyramids, and to align temples and tombs with certain celestial bodies. This is a drawing of a Roman surveying tool called a groma, found at the ancient site of Pompeii. If you wanted to attempt a massive construction project, say like the Great Pyramid of Giza, then you would need a tool that could help you determine right angles and straight lines. So how can we be sure the Egyptians really used these particular type of gromas? Well, there was actually the discovery of part of one in the Fayum province of Egypt, dating to about the 2nd century BC, and it's pictured here in yellow on the slide. Early surveyor instruments such as this were useful on only flat terrain and for setting a limited range of angles. With the groma, distant objects were marked out against the position of the stones in a horizontal plane. The groma is thought to have been used to set out the lines of roads at right angles in the 1st and 2nd centuries, but was used much earlier. In combination with other tools, one would be able to survey and build very precise architecture. Here, Seshat is depicted wearing a leopard skin, which is a symbol of funerary priests, and wearing her unique headdress while she is inscribing the years of reign for the king on the palm leaf rib. We can see Seshat with her headdress clearly depicted as a star and partially enveloped by 2 snakes, which is rare. The more common depictions of the headdress are depicted in the collage next to the statue. It is thought that above the star are generally bull horns, but these horns may have originated from the crescent moon, making Seshat at least partly a lunar deity, like her consort Thoth. The other image there, the collage wasn't mine. It was put together by somebody else, and I just edited a bit, slightly. So the collage shows images of what some people, actually many people, believe her headdress to be. But a big problem for deciphering symbols is that it is often thought by many that the objects in question, like for example the headdress, have only one meaning, but rarely is this the case. Sometimes her headdress was shown with varying numbers of points on the star. It was shown in many different ways. As Seshat was often shown wearing the skin of a leopard or cheetah, which I believe this also is part of her imagery relating to the heavens and her ability to survey and measure the stars, the pattern on the natural spotted feline hide was thought to represent the stars, which were symbols of eternity and would be connected with the night. This old form of the Promethean goddess has been around for many millennia and was keeper of the sacred fires always blazing in the night sky. In fact, this tradition of using feline pelt imagery to denote the stars in the heavens goes back to extreme ancient history. The images above are from Çatalhöyük in Turkey, and that dates back to 7,500 BC. At the Ankara Museum in Turkey, they have the original artifacts shown in the slide. And especially you can see with the reconstruction done here, clearly the message the ancients left us regarding their belief of a connection between the feline and the heavens. You can just see it on the pelt. The reconstruction is really, really amazing to see in person. So the deity associated with this powerful feline had the ability to measure the heaven and earth, bring knowledge to the people of earth in the form of instruction on how to use the sacred fire in order to navigate, align, construct, and create. She gave knowledge of architecture, craft, farming, sedentary, sustained life, and so much more. The pechis, or the stretching of the cord ceremony, was one of the most important parts of the whole foundation ritual in ancient Egypt for sacred building projects. And Seshat was the overseer of the event in her role as mistress of the House of Architects. She assisted the pharaoh with astronomical and astrological measurements for location of temples. Seshat was the keeper of ground plans and charts during the ritual as well. Within the walls of the Temple of Horus at Edfu are recorded words of the pharaoh as follows. I take the peg pole, I grasp the club by its handle, I stretch the cord with Sheshata. I turn my sight to follow the stars' movements. I fix my gaze on the astrality of Meshetu. The star god that announces the time reaches the angle of us, Mereket. I establish the 4 corners of the god's temple. Okay, so let's move over to Saqqara, which I decided to visit and explore, looking for anything that might prove the influence of Seshat there. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the area. The most prominent monument at the ancient site of Saqqara is the step pyramid of Djoser. And Djoser was the first king of the third dynasty, about 2650 BC. The site, according to Egyptologists, is said to be the first pyramid and the earliest example of large-scale stone construction in Egypt. Djoser's pyramid is believed to have been designed by a high-ranking official named Imhotep, whom was somewhat of a genius architect. In fact, Imhotep was given the status of a full deity after the Persian conquest of Egypt in 525 BCE because he was so revered for his creations. So I found something really interesting while visiting Saqqara and realized that Seshat being involved in the pyramid is without question there because of what is carved on the stone in this image. I believe the ancient measuring and surveying tool used in the construction of the step pyramid itself is shown carved in relief here. The image portrays a groma surveying tool, which is a tool of Seshat's. Now, many people have said this carving is a depiction of stars, and indeed it probably is, because the star is representative of the deity as well. But this is not the only thing it represents. The ancients were masters of elegance in their carvings because they used layered meanings. These multiple meanings for one carved symbol meant less effort was used in the working of hard stone. The star is also a groma, and both relate to Seshat, whom surveyed not only the earth, but the stars and the other heavenly bodies. All right. I want to explain to you why I believe that that particular carving from the previous slide is important. So this image now is an example of a known Roman groma from the grave of an ancient mason or surveyor. So please consider this image comparison of the known Roman groma and what I believe may be a groma from the stone found at Saqqara. They're really similar. Also, after much research, I do believe this tool for measuring also doubles as a symbol of the ancient Egyptian deity Seshat. Her headdress, she is mistress of the house of builders and architects, so it kind of makes sense seeing that before you can start your new construction, it must be surveyed, measured, and aligned, and that is the time Seshat was called to attend and take part in the stretching the cord ceremony, which had to be held before building could even commence, before ground could be broken. The bottom left corner shows an ancient groma in use, and please note in the same image 2 stakes being hammered into the ground. Now please look at the large middle portrayal image of Seshat and see she also holds these 2 objects in her hands. As she was a scribe, I believe these objects are again dual imagery showing both her writing tools and measuring tools. So I'm pretty sure her headdress is the implement. Here are just a few more groma images I'd like you to see. They have varying styles, but generally they're the same. So let's compare the headdress of Seshat to the groma star, and again its placement near the god whom has measured out the rectangle plot above his hand in the top image, showing connections again to measurement and power. I couldn't believe I spotted this little groma on the top ancient sill with the guys on either side of it with the tools to go along with it. So you see in red there, that's a depiction of a groma. And I don't think anybody else has picked up on that. But now that I've noticed it, I start seeing it everywhere. And please take a look at this ancient cylinder sill showing another deity in connection with the same device. Below it are more examples of gromas, and the middle bottom picture is just an enlarged image from the red rectangle above it. The deity in the sill is holding a notched stick, like Seshat's palm leaf, where she records the years of reign of the pharaoh. Then next to that, in the red rectangular box, we have what seems to be a groma. It's quite fascinating, as it seems to show that the knowledge was kept for a select few powerful individuals. Also, please again notice the beings on either side of the ruler, like objects or the gates, and note that they are also holding the same measuring sticks, which are probably also doubling as scribes' tools. Also on top of the rulers, or the gates, are felines. We always seem to have these strange grouping symbolism connections as well. Like a person of importance, a surveying or measuring device, and a feline. And not just in that part of the world. You can cross the oceans and find the same symbolism. This is an enlarged image of an ancient vase from Argentina, and the feline in this case is actually holding a groma, a stylized groma, putting the groma with the feline as being related in some way to surveying. And if you notice on this vase, the pelt of the feline is very interesting. So if we think back to Çatalhöyük, 9,000 years old, and their feline symbolism, and what's shown on this vase is really impressive because it's just almost unexplainable. And I have other research as well that I would love to share if I had the time, but I'll just keep moving on. So I can easily say that many of the tools held by elite people in ancient times were related to surveying and were probably, other types of tools, though having lost their meaning over time. So this is a was scepter, and it was a symbol that appeared often in relics, art, and hieroglyphs associated with the ancient Egyptian religion. It appears as a stylized animal head at the top of a long straight staff with a forked end. The large image above shows several human figures and is a representation of land measurement on the wall of a tomb in Thebes from approximately 1400 BC, showing head and rear chainmen measuring a grain field with what appears to be a rope with knots or marks at uniform intervals. Please note that a was scepter is held by the adult in the middle of the photo. But this is a tool that's reserved for the elite, so I'm not sure what's going on there. Scepters were depicted as being carried by gods, pharaohs, and priests, but we just saw it being held in a field by workers or surveyors. It's both a measurement tool and a symbol of power. These tools of measurement gave humans the ability to successfully farm and sustain themselves, which effectively extended and improved their lives. If you had the knowledge of measurement, then you had power, and that's probably why it was kept secret for a long time. Although the Egyptians were brilliant, some of the devices they used, like the was scepter, began long before them. Here are notched calendars that many call Venus figurines, dating to about 25,000 years ago, and they have obvious feminine attributes, which I think is also more evidence showing that women were the first to sort of count and measure. I actually believe that women were the first to start to survey. Our own bodies taught us that, how to count for menstrual cycles and for giving birth, the months. So it was kind of something that just came natural to us. And this is just the style, no, what is that? Oh yeah, the Venus figurine. Okay, so here's a was scepter, and mainly the bottom part of it is what I was interested in, because when I saw it pictured in the grain field, and they were probably surveying, then I thought, well, there's something interesting there. So the white image on the right shows how the scepter could be used as a gnomon. The gnomon is an instrument used widely in early astronomy. The shadow of a vertical rod on a horizontal plane determines the cardinal directions, the latitude of the place of observation, the celestial coordinates of the sun, and the time of the observation. Paying attention to ancient symbols and thinking outside the box when you consider them can really teach you a lot about our ancient ancestors and how amazing they really were. And I think I'm almost done, so thank you guys.